Alright, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Underestimated Podcast and Sand Shark Sundays. I'm your host, Jeremy, back with another episode. I'm going to move kind of quick here because I did something that I've done a million times since I started podcasting a couple years ago, and I am probably inevitably going to do it 1,000 more times before I um, retire from this industry. So, as you all know, somewhat, I was sick last weekend, and I literally got sick in between recording episode 5 of Sand Shark Sundays. It was like in the middle. I was like halfway through, and I got sick. I started getting chills. Later on, ended up vomiting twice. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But that meant that I wasn't able to actually put out a video last Sunday. So I was like, you know what, it's fine. Double up for this Sunday. And then fast forward, I pre-recorded a video on like Wednesday, Thursday, and it was ready to go. And then, with the Wi-Fi that I have here at the school, even though my Wi-Fi back at home is pretty good, it's not like my school's Wi-Fi. I'm able to put out a video in like 15, 20 minutes here. It takes no time, honestly. So that's how I'm able to like sometimes be lazy and record, edit, and publish all in the same day. So I was recording this morning, got up, because my goal was to have both videos out by 12. I get the first video done, and then my MacBook was like, oh yeah, you're running low on disk space, so you cannot edit the second video. So I'm like, okay. And you know me, I'm quick to like delete everything. So I did exactly that, not realizing that I also deleted the file that was pre-recorded. So that sucks. But something that my one of my professors this semester said to us earlier in the week when he was doing lecture. He was like, in this industry, it sucks, but you got to be in the habit or get yourself in the habit of, when you mess up on something, just do it again. And it's one of the things that I hate the most, because it's like, especially if I do really, really good on it. Like if I kind of mess it up and don't really put my best foot forward, then sometimes having to do it over is like a blessing in disguise, because it gives you an opportunity to have a clean slate and be better the second time. But when you actually do pretty decent, and then obviously you can't replicate every single thing that you said. So, but we're gonna try to knock it out. I don't know if the time's gonna be spot on. I think I hit the 30-minute mark the first time, because that's usually always my goal. But anyway, yeah, this is gonna be breaking down the intense mid February matchup between the USCB men and the Georgia Southwestern. They had a hard fought battle that resulted in a 91-84 loss for USCB in the Cove on Valentine's Day. And this game was an offensive showcase from its opening tip. I mean, the Sand Sharks came in with a 17-7 overall record and 11-5 in Peach Belt Conference play, and they were pretty much riding a solid offensive momentum and confident after a strong stretch of victories. And the Hurricanes, sitting at 16-8 and 9-7, were hungry and came to spoil the party. Bluffton was electric early, and USCB struck first. Bluffton obviously being the Cove. And so, you got our senior captain, Kavon Price, open scoring, followed by a deep bomb by, you know, one of our best 3-point shooters on the team, and Nolan Paladugu, who helped the Sand Sharks push ahead early, and then they held a razor thin 42-41 lead at halftime thanks to a relentless sort of energy and efficient scoring from multiple threats. Headlining the night was our guy who sort of has been our rock um, throughout the season, Evan Kilminster, the College of Charleston transfer, who poured in a game high 21 points on 8 of 11 shooting, distributing 6 assists, and pulling down 5 rebounds. A true floor general performance. I mean, coming behind him, we had Dom, who stayed steady with 14 points, while both Shea and Hudson had 13 points apiece, helping the Sand Sharks to sort of stay close throughout the game. And Georgia Southwestern answered every single punch, and that's what great teams do. Great teams can throw a punch, but also take a blow, if that makes sense. And the Hurricanes executed well. I mean, taking every advantage of key runs, and that's what basketball is. Basketball is a game of runs, and so that stretched their lead in the second half and forcing crucial free throws down the stretch. A late punch from the Sharks, including buckets from Kilminster and hustle plays from Norton, made it interesting in the final minutes. But GSW's composure at the stripe sealed the win. Statistically, the numbers reflected a tight contest, but if you watch that game, you know, it's no matter what team you were rooting for necessarily, like it would be hard for you to leave that game thinking that USCB lost, but both teams shot efficiently. I mean, USCB actually posted a slightly higher field goal percentage than GSW, and turnovers and free throw discrepancies, though, helped to swing this one in the Hurricanes' direction. And rebounds were competitive all night, with the Sharks actually putting down 39 boards to Georgia Southwestern's 31, showing grit on the glass that kept them in it until the final possessions. And so, I mean, what does this mean for USCB? I mean, the setbacks things. I mean, we hate to lose. I am proud of how we can sort of put it past us, because you kind of have to. In college, you have to. Because, I mean, life in general can just throw so many things at you that it's like you kind of have to simplify things as best as you can. You got to be able to move forward with one singular good thing. And, even after a loss, if I go into practice the next day, or, the next 2 days or whatever after that loss, nobody's got their head down. Everybody's in high spirits, smiling, motivated, eager to be better. And that's just the great thing about this team. Like, lose or win, they want to be better. Because, I mean, if we want to do what a lot of people are deeming as the impossible and bring a national championship back to Bluffton, then, we got a whole lot more work to do. And so, but I mean, the bigger picture should reassure USCB fans for sure. This season has been about growth, and it will continue to be about growth. From buzzer beaters like, Evan Kilminster's overtime heroics earlier in the year to consistent, balanced scoring nights, USCB has constantly improved its identity. And looking forward, the Sharks run, they returned they returned to action really quickly. Coming off this loss, they hit the court on February 16th against Lander, and which leaves them ready to continue their Peach Belt Conference campaign with renewed focus. And I mean, you can take a lot of routes to sort of figure out what went wrong in this game. First thing was tempo. This was a fast basketball game, and I mean, if not really trying to leak the scouting report, but I mean, if you watch the tape, if you're playing USCB, you're going to play a fast game. Um, we do a very good job of making you play at our pace, and we're not going to budge and play yours. Both teams were over 50% from the field, and Georgia Southwestern shot 50.8, while USCB shot even better with 51.6. That is a .8 difference in shot percentage. And that tells me that this wasn't about poor offense. It was about execution in specific moments. When you have two teams scoring 40 points in each half, defense isn't necessarily failing. Because there's this thing in basketball that we know, and it's called great defense or good defense and better offense. You know, and I mean it could go the other way as well too. But it comes down to situational defense. Who gets stops after media timeouts, who wins the 2 minute stretches, who executes out of dead balls, and that's where Georgia Southwestern sort of created separation. One of the biggest differences in this game was free throws. The Hurricanes went 22 of 28 from the stripe, nearly 79%, and USCB just 8 of 19. And that's been one of the things that we've sort of struggled with all year. Um, I'm not really sure what it is though, because we have great, very capable free throw shooters. That I mean, I've been to enough practices to certainly affirm that they shoot a lot of free throws, and a lot of them, whether it be watching some of them individually work out or staying back after practice and practicing even more free throws, like they get their free throws in for sure. So I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously, in game is always different than practice, even though they practice the same way they practice this at the same level as if they're in game. Like a lot of times, practice feels like an actual game. Um, that's just the way they practice, and you have to kind of prepare that way if you want to be great. And so, but that's a 14-point gap at the line in a 7-point game. So you don't need advanced metrics to see that swing. That's composure, that's discipline, and that's late game execution. In the tight Peach Belt games, that matters because man, I often say, and I'm gonna keep saying it. Um, now, granted, I've only been at a D2 school for 7 months. Wow, that's crazy to say that. Time is flying. But yeah, I've been here what 7 months now. So obviously I'm still learning D2 because like growing up, I've only known about everything that involves D1. Um, but I kind of got introduced to it when I had friends who were athletes that had D2 schools looking at them, and that's when I kind of got introduced to what D2 is and all the bells and whistles that come with D2. So, with me saying that, I do believe that the Peach Belt Conference is like the SEC of D2. Like, no matter who you play, and I believe it is 12 teams in our conference, if I'm not mistaken. Whether you're playing the 12 team, standings wise, or the second, it's gonna be a battle. You can never go in there saying we got a for sure win tonight. Mm-mm. That is never going to be the case in this conference. Another key area is points off turnovers. Georgia Southwestern converted USCB's miscues into 26 points, which is huge. That's almost 30 points off turnovers. That is, man, that's insane. The Sharks only generated 13 points off turnovers the other way, which is actually half of it. But that's a massive swing when you're talking about transition opportunity. When you give up live ball turnovers in a high tempo game, it's almost automatic points at the other end. So now here's what's interesting though. The rebounding battle actually favored USCB, as I said earlier. That shows effort. That shows physicality. And that shows they weren't outworked. In fact, second chance points were nearly even. USCB had 15, GSW had 13. So this wasn't about toughness, it was about control. I think I've said it time and time again. I have been a Duke fan. Duke has been my dream school since I was like 8. The one thing that I've realized with us over the years, and I think it's been the new wave of players, because I can't say this about the Grant Hill teams, back in the 90s. But I mean, it's 2026, that's 30 years ago. So, in the most recent Duke teams that I've watched since I was younger, when they play teams that are physical with them, they have a tendency to back down, right? And I realized that pattern over the years, and it hasn't really waned yet. But we'll see what happens this year, because I haven't really looked to see who the physical teams are. I know the schools that have a physical identity, but it doesn't mean that year they recruited players that are gonna sort of match that identity to a T. But I'm saying that to say that with this team, I don't believe it at all. This is a team, and I can tell you 2 games specifically where you're talking about when we've played North Georgia and Lander. All of those games were physical. Not once did we back down. And that's what I love about us, because we're gonna need that going forward. You're not gonna be able to back down in the NCAA tournament. That's just not even, that's non-negotiable. You know what I mean? So I do love that about us for sure. I mean, it was a promising game for a lot of our guys. Dominic, Eason was able to give us a interior presence, which is something that I think I've said before, we haven't really been able to establish much of this year. But I think, when I get to talk to our players, because those are my guys, when I get to talk to them, they understand that, and they're conscious of it, so they're constantly working in game, individually, and in practice to sort of develop that and sustain that going forward. Because we have way too many shooters. That's how basketball works. It's a game of adjustments. So obviously, if you establish a paint presence, then that opens up opportunities for a 3. Because now you're gonna probably more than likely run into situations where somebody drives, that pulls in an extra defender, and us having definitely high IQ players on that team, you kick it out to the open shooter, and then you pretty much you become close to unstoppable at that point. So you're talking about Dom giving us a interior presence when he had 14-9. He battled all night in the paint, which is something he does day in and day out. I mean, his work is very consistent, and Hudson, Norton came off the bench, gave us 13, and so did Shea, and that's what you call depth. This team is, as Coach Ron has called them a billion times over the years, an all-star team. I believe he can throw 85 out there, and we got a chance to beat anybody. And that's the kind of bench production you're going to need if you want to win a national championship. But on the other side, Georgia Southwestern, got to give credit where credit is due. They had balance as well. I mean, Deontay Williams had 14. I'm sorry, 24. Amir Reeves had 20. J.R. Jacobs had 18. Three players between 18 and 24 points. That's hard to scheme against. Extremely hard to scheme against. And when multiple players can create their own shot, defensive rotations get stretched extremely thin. But if you want something that is subtle, Georgia Southwestern had 20 assists on 31 made field goals. That's excellent ball movement. That means they weren't just playing isolation basketball, they were collapsing the defense and kicking out. They were playing connected. So now, you zoom out into the Peach Belt Conference picture, and at 11-5 in the conference, after this loss, USCB is still firmly in the mix. I mean, it doesn't hurt us that bad. This doesn't derail the season whatsoever. I mean, but February positioning matters, seeding matters, home court in the PBC tournament matters. And games like this are the difference between hosting and traveling, which, I mean, we'll still be hosting even with this loss. I firmly believe that. Splitting the season series with Georgia Southwestern keeps things balanced, but you'd love to protect home court at the Cove, especially with postseason implications looming. And, let's talk about the Cove for a second, though. Attendance was 291, which, I mean, obviously not massive, but intimate environments can be intense. And these late season conference games become chess matches. Every possession gets magnified. Every missed free throw echoes a little louder. But now here's the silver lining, right? USCB showed they can score with anybody. 84 points against a strong conference opponent is not a problem. The offense is not broken whatsoever. I mean, the half court sets are working, the spacing is working, the shot quality is there. What needs tightening is decision making under pressure. So late in games, you can't give away possessions. You can't trade empty trips for free throws on the other end. That's maturity basketball. And sometimes that's what separates a good team from a championship ready team. But this is also growth territory. I mean, there's always room for growth. Even if you win by 30, win by 40, it's always room to grow. We've seen this team respond before. Earlier this season, they bounced back from adversity with statement wins. And that resilience is part of their identity now. And heading into the matchup against Lander, this becomes a tone setting opportunity. You don't let one loss spiral. You use it as motivation to be better. And strategically, I absolutely trust this coaching staff. Um, that's what I love about this USCB program. Like when you talk about men's or women's, you have a coaching staff in both areas that complements the talent on the roster, right? So I expect adjustments. Maybe a little more ball security and emphasis in practice. Maybe situational free throw reps, which is what we already do. So just not more so changing. I know I just said adjustments, but not no more so changing. It's just more of what you're doing. Maybe defensive drills focused on transition recognition. Um, these are all fixable areas. Another thing about this game screams structural flaw. It screams details. And in February and March, details are everything. If you're a Sand Shark fan listening to this, here's the takeaway. This team is still dangerous. They're balanced. They have scoring depth. They rebound. They can shoot over 50% in conference play. It's not common. It's not something you see in every single team. The difference between 17-7 and 18-8, and 18-6 is sometimes it just comes down to missing free throws. And so as we look ahead, the focus becomes consistency. And can the Sharks train together? Disciplined performance. Can they close games with when it becomes possession basketball inside 2 minutes, because when tournament time hits, every game feels exactly like this one did. High scoring, back and forth, multiple lead changes, no double digit cushion late. And the teams that survive in March are the ones that execute when it is tight. So this loss doesn't define us whatsoever. Trust me. If you're gonna let this loss define us, then we'll accept it. We'll be glad for it because we'd love to prove you wrong. And if anything, it refines us more than defines us. So heading into the next stretch of conference play, keep your eyes on three things: turnover margin, free throw percentage, and late game defensive stops. If those numbers tighten up, this team absolutely has the ceiling to make the noise in the Peach Belt Conference tournament. And that's where we'll leave things on this particular episode. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoy it. And maybe, just maybe, this episode was a little bit more smoothly ran than the first time. So, yeah. I mean, obviously it wasn't, the greatest day for us. But, I was thinking about this kind of earlier. And, man, one thing I love about basketball is, I've been a basketball fan I turn 20 next month. So, 20 years, well, if we're being realistic, let's say more like 15. But the thing about it is I still have so much to learn from it, and it's such a beautiful thing. Like, I love learning about basketball and figuring out different things because it also makes me better. My growing knowledge is just going to carry me along the way. Like, am I ahead for my age? I definitely believe that. I think I always have been for quite some time now. But now I'm in a place where I can still sort of lean on that, but use it as a opportunity to grow and be better. And sort of being around all of this basketball, like, there's nothing I'd rather do. Like, I love going to practice and watching the guys get better, and watching Coach Ron and Coach Luke and Coach Flo and Coach Williams pour into them, to not just be better basketball players, but be better men, be better students, and better people. And they also put it into me, and so I can never underappreciate what those guys have done for me. I mean, I can go on a tangent about, my love for that team and those guys, but, we'll be better. I don't know. I think this loss sort of leaves me optimistic. Not necessarily concerned or anything, but just optimistic, because I know what we can do. But, obviously, mindset and verbiage only go so far. You have to go out there and put forth the effort and the action to complement that mindset and that verbiage. So, and I believe we can. So, it's exciting. Today is technically March 1st. So, March Madness is soon looming, and I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. So, that's going to be it for me. I appreciate all of you checking in. And so episode 5 is already out. Obviously, my intent was initially to drop both at the same time at noon, but I'm going to jump on this right now and get it edited so I can upload it to the next 30 minutes or so, and then that way both will be out, and then I got to get to all the promotional things and all of that. So, yeah, like I said, appreciate y'all for checking in. Go tune in to episode 5, talking about the girls who falling to Columbus State. And yeah, always remember, don't underestimate, appreciate. Don't.